fact is, our opposition caucus is focused on righting wrongs and helping people. See the theme that's going through here? And how did we do that? Well, we stood with Calgarian Selena Thibault, whose utility bills in January and February were more than $400 each. And U of C student Chase Coombs, whose student debt is higher than ever thanks to the UCP. And construction worker Michael Dunn, who spoke out against the watering down of safety standards on his job site. And when the UCP clawed back funding from victims of crime, well, we stood with Emma Nikolai Wilson, a survivor of sexual assault who was denied her claim. We fought and continue to fight for Albertans living with disabilities like Mary Salvini and Kaveen Sheikh Ladin, who have less and less every month because of the UCP's broken promise to index AISH. We speak out for parents like Matt Beauchamp, whose family has been searching for childcare for their 2 children in Calgary for months. And when the UCP ripped up the coal policy and threatened our mountains with mines, we stood with Calgarians and Albertans who were against this disastrous plan, and I in particular remember standing with Adam North Pagan, chair of the Mountain Child Valley Society, proud member of Piikani First Nation and a great Albertan, and we told the UCP to get their hands off the eastern slopes, the places that Alberta families cherish, and the ancestral lands of the First Peoples. And when the UCP took the history of residential schools out of their ridiculous K-6 draft curriculum, we stood with Nicole Robertson from Tsuut'ina First Nation to say children should know the truth about Canada's past because that is the only way to achieve true reconciliation. We joined Edmonton teacher Justin Swanson when the UCP put forward a back-to-school plan that had 0 protections for his students, and when Jason Kenney took away PUF funding for 5-year-olds with serious learning disabilities, we stood with Hope Ruddocks from the Chinook Autism Society in Lethbridge to fight for those children to get the support they need to learn and live healthy lives. We called for leadership. We called for leadership in healthcare throughout this pandemic, as you know. And when the UCP was boozing it up on the Sky Palace patio, well, we stood with frontline nurses and health workers like Erin Boyd and Rihanna Teskey in Calgary and Joanne Clooney in Fort McMurray, who were exhausted, begging the UCP to stop their privatization and to support them. And when the UCP continued to chase doctors away, we stood with Dr. Darren Markland at the Royal Alexander Hospital to call for an end to chaos in healthcare. And we called for more support for small businesses like Bread Love in St. Albert, the Starlight Room in Edmonton, and the Palomina Smokehouse right here in Calgary, all trying so hard to stay afloat and comply with ever-changing health orders, waiting endlessly for the help that sometimes and sometimes didn't ever arrive. We listened to Cold Lake mom Melissa Crone, whose 8-year-old daughter had been suffering from long COVID symptoms since last fall. And while Jason Kenney refused to take responsibility for the consequences of his disastrous best summer ever, we stood with tens of thousands of Albertans who lost their surgeries, who were forced to wait in pain and uncertainty. Albertans like Scott Wynot, whose heart bypass was delayed 3 times. And Fort Saskatchewan mother Jennifer Wood, whose daughter Robin was born with a rare condition that means, in simple terms, she burns significantly more calories than a typical kid. And at 16 months old, she was struggling greatly to maintain her weight. She needed a feeding tube urgently, but her surgery had been postponed indefinitely. And the consequences of that were life-altering. And Jennifer, she told me that her daughter's hips would remain unstable and that her overall developmental development was going to be delayed and put at risk. And for the parents in this room, you can imagine the stress and the fear that would have been in her voice when she was telling me about that. So we stood behind her and we raised her voice. And you know what? Baby Robin got her feeding tube. And that, my friends, is the example of real change in real people's lives that New Democrats can and do make. And that is what my dad was talking about 50 years ago.